Yeah. So one of the things that comes up there for me is that with this really broad brush of helping people discover what is conceptual and what is actual, it becomes really obvious very, very quickly that the only thing that is actual is now. So we're also debunking the conceptual nature of time, of memory and fantasy about the future. And so by doing that, by helping people to discover that, it does bring them into the now, the present kind of thing, and no version of the self can exist only in the present, only in now. That it absolutely any version of the self requires a history and a fantasy future.
Yeah. And
Agreed.
I will add that's why I think it's good to talk about it directly. It's one thing can exist in the now, even if it's a belief, it's the sensation to be in a body, and that space exists. So at some point you have to dissolve also the space understanding, even if it's conceptually. But if you can at least give it conceptually, it will kind of give the seed to the path to dissolve distance.
Mm.
Because people say, yeah, of course there's no time, just only now. And listen, and what often my impression is like people say, yeah, now meaning this room in this body, and I am inside of it. This is what they mean by now somehow. So they shift from really time to space, localization really, but they don't see the shift.
Yeah, it's a much more subtle one when you recognize that distance requires time, which requires concept, requires a fantasy about the past and the future. Without those two things, distance can't exist. That's much more subtle, but still pretty obvious here.
Well, I think it's because there's a connection obvious between space and time because it's one thing really with a different world. But if you are precise, if for example there is my bottle of water, right, and it's very near of my office, right, just here. So if it's very near of me, I would say, oh, I will think in terms of space. Okay, I will just reach my hand and grab it, right? So I will think about in terms of space, spatial. But if this bottle, if it's in another country, I will start to think in terms of time. How long will I get there? Not only, not only how physically, but how much time, how much I have to travel to go there. So that's why time and space are very together,
Intertwined.
even if we speak differently. So the more near the object is, the more we think about it in space, and the more far it is, the more we think about in a time understanding.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's helpful what I'm saying, but
Well, you're looking serious, Kathleen.
I do, don't I? This time and space thing just had me a little off. I did get the book that Paul suggested last week um, about
Greg.
direct,
Yeah.
yeah, which is really good. And I'm taking it really slow too, because I think you kind of have to, you know. Um, but a question came up for me this morning actually. I was listening to something about what is it called? Um, I'm having a memory lapse. Um, Trauma. When you have trauma and you're going into to search the trauma, like childhood trauma and things like that. Um, the question is like, who'd the trauma happen to? You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. That falls in the category of what I call useless questions.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where I finally got to, because I was like, the pain body. I mean, Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body, and I guess that's the closest thing I could think of would be the pain that's in the body,
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah, so my story about who it happened to is like, okay, at a level for of a story, it happened to somebody called Kathleen when she was young.
Right.
But that's totally irrelevant, right? The whole point is that whatever you call that thing, that trauma, that the whatever got embedded in the body is there now. In whatever form it is in there now. It's evolved. It's not the same. It's different, but it's there now. And that's the actual issue. Now, one way to dissolve that is to examine it, to bring it out, to shine the light of examination on it, and then it can change. But we can use story to put it into context. We can use story to discover the conditions under which it came into existence. But that is playing with concept. That is a story that we use, but it's a useful one in that sense. If it's a big issue, you see, I think every child goes through trauma. Every child gets abused by circumstances. It's just the nature of being a child. They're not considered people. They're considered children. They should be quiet, not noisy, and all this kind of stuff. So every child gets it. But for some, it's like water off a duck's back. It doesn't seem to affect them and whatever. But for others, it's a big deal, huh? And it gets internalized. And so we have now a residual of that, and that can get in the road of waking up thing, or not. It just
Yeah.
depends on the things. So. I call it, and it's a label, but I call it shadow work. It's stuff that
Shadow work. That's the word I couldn't think of. I was like, where is it? It's shadow work.
it's stuff that hides in the shadows. That's the way. That's the reason for it. It's the monster under the bed. I just love that analogy as a way of looking at it. Because we tend to avoid it. Our behavior is that we will avoid it, and if we don't have to. We don't have to drag the original thing into the light and see every bit of it. We can, if sometimes just acknowledging that something is there can be enough to dissolve it. But for others, it does take a lot more looking at in order to get rid of it.
So is it a matter of, because that's what I was doing. I was laying down and I was like, okay, I was hearing something about shadow work. So I was like, okay, so go inside and I was trying to find something and I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, okay, well, and then that's when the thought came, well, who's looking for it? It's
Yeah,
like,
who's looking for it? Yeah, who did it happen to? Yeah. So what that brings up is this again, the concept of the absolute and the relative, is a thing. So that may, well, we can say, yes, it exists. That belongs in the absolute. And so that's unknowable. That stuff about who it
yeah.
happened to, who did it happen to, who is it, who has got it now. We don't know. We can say, okay, we're a body, we're a body with a history, and so this kind of stuff. But again, that's a story that just it's useful sometimes. It can
Yeah.
also be the opposite of useful. It can be a way of avoiding stuff, to get into that too. So it just
Well,
depends.
is it useful to go looking for it, or just as it comes, then dive into it?
No, no. See, you don't make the assumption that something exists unless there's a
Yeah.
reason to. If
Okay.
So well, the way I put it is that a lot of the time, once we've seen through, that initial thing, once we've recognized that there is such a thing as concept and there's such a thing as direct experience, when you can appreciate the difference between the two, you don't even need to think about that anymore, because direct experience is not something that you can live in purely, right? Because always, the moment you have a direct experience, thoughts turn up and they want to describe it and explain it and so on. So they then corrupt your next experience. So there's this cycle of things where you as you're waking up, stories turn up, and then you respond to those stories, and then those create more stories, and then you respond to them, and that just goes on all day. That's the nature of reality as I see it, or a version of that. So if you recognize the illusions, that doesn't, they were delusions before you recognize them as concept. And when you recognize them as concept, they exist as illusions. So there's the illusion that there is a self there running the show. Well, that's an illusion, but it works. That's what happens. You say, this is my car, and I'm walking. I'm buying food at the grocery store or whatever. It's a useful illusion, but it is an illusion, right? When you look at the reality of it, then walking happens and talking happens. There's nobody doing them. But you can say, well, okay, there is something there for the moment, and that's useful, but that's unknowable what it actually is.
Okay. Well, that was helpful. Thank you.
So just to follow on a little bit with that, what I say is that we will pretty constantly discover that there are remnants of identification which is us taking a concept to be actual. So when we just go through life, we'll discover that there is actually a belief that there is a Kathleen running the show. And even though we've debunked that and we go, I can see quite clearly that there's not a Kathleen running the show, something will happen and it will trigger an old belief that there is Kathleen running the show. And if you're on the ball and you recognize that that's what's happened, that's all it takes, and it's gone, and it
That's
won't.
what you can catch it, right?
And it doesn't come back, because it's seen through. Maybe it won't happen one time. Maybe it'll take a couple of times sometimes, but nevertheless, it's seen through and debunked. But there are lots of these, like years later, they'll still be turning up because they're there, but we don't know they're there until they get triggered. And so something hasn't been triggered for the last 2 years. And then all of a sudden something happens and boom, up comes this belief about something, and you see through it and it's gone. But if it's not gone, if it keeps on coming back, often it is resting on some other foundation, which is very likely that shadow thing there. So if stuff comes up and you see through it and it's gone, great, that's it, beauty. But if it keeps on coming back and it starts to kind of, you go, why does this keep turning up? Even though I've seen the nature of the illusion, it's no longer a delusion. I see it as an illusion, but it persists. Then frequently it is because there's a foundation under it that we might call something requiring shadow work.
Okay.
How you
Well,
might.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
I just I'm gonna call it a funny thing happened yesterday. I don't know if it's really funny. It kind of is. Um, I've been divorced for 40 years. No, I'd be like 10 if I got married. I've been divorced for 20 years, but my ex-husband is still in the picture because of my son. And but anyway, we've had all kind of drama in the last 3 months. He had open heart surgery and blah blah blah. So I'm like his only friend. Well, I thought I was his only friend. I'm the only person in the world who gives a hoot about him. And about a week ago, there was an incident, and I went over there, and I just had 40 years of not talking back to him because I was very subservient, and I was really fear. The 20 years of my marriage, fear ran it. So I just kept my head down and just went with things and didn't say anything. So anyway, so now fear's not running me. And I went over to his house, and he had gotten in a fight with somebody because they took his parking place. And here he is, 75 years old. I walk in, he's got this big old goose egg on his face. And I'm like, what happened? Well, it was, of course, it wasn't his fault. And that was part of his whole thing, is nothing's ever his fault. Well, after 40 years of listening to that bullshit, I said, well, that's not what I heard. I said, I heard you were screaming and, cursing and, oh. So anyway, it just, 40 years of me holding everything in just came out. I mean, I went through every time he didn't take responsibility for what he had done and what he's done to my son and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so then he turns around and looks at me and he goes, well, you're the most selfish person in the world. And he proceeds to rake me over the coals, which is fine. I don't care. So anyway, so then when I left, each week I sent him a text just saying, how you doing? There's literally no one in this man's life. If he would be dead for 2 years in the house and no one would know it. I mean, that's the type of person he is. So every week I send like a text, hope you're doing okay, or just something like that, just some proof of life. Well, anyway, I get a text from him yesterday about being narcissist. He has this big long thing, 10 things of what a narcissist is. And so I read the 10 things that a narcissist is, and I text back. I said, so am I the narcissist? And he goes, well, yes. What do you think about the last time we were together? And I said, well, I think I held it in for 40 years, and that's what happened the last time we were together. And I said, but you know what? I'm me, you're you. It really doesn't make any difference. And I ended it with something like, if you want to talk, call me, the end. It absolutely made absolutely no difference to me. I mean, I was playing bunco with a friend. We just went back playing bunco. It was like, there was no trigger. There was no.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It was incredible. So I feel really, I hate to use the word good, but I do feel good about the fact that none of that stuff stuck to me, which I think previously things would have stuck and I would have been like, well, you did this and blah, 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 and got into the stories. But who cares what the stories are? I mean,
you can see why they call it liberation.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's why today I was thinking, was there any shadow work? And I did say, am I a narcissist? I mean, it's like, if someone calls you something, I think you have to kind of look and kind of go inside and like, okay, well, and I Googled what is a narcissist. I mean, I really dug deep into this, and I'm like, I think it's his delusion,
Yeah.
and then just let go of it.
It can be, I don't know that it always is, of course, but it can be that people project. So it's the narcissists that see narcissism in everybody else, but not in themselves.
And that's exactly what the case was. That's exactly what it is. But, sticks and stones will break your bones, But anyway, but I'm in a good place. But I looked so serious because I was thinking of the near and far and the time and distance thing, because that's kind of where I am in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got some great discoveries in front of you there. I'm trying to break the habit of people waiting for me to pick on them to talk. But I also get it that it can be really difficult sometimes to kind of speak up and say something.
Hi,
I'll
Vince.
go, Vince.
And then we have a couple at the same time. Yeah. Okay.
You go, Louise.
Thank you. I just wanted to say hello.
Right.
I was in a um
You were in a not good place last time we spoke.
no, no. Do you know what? I was listening. I was listening to the meeting and I was watching. I just it's all memory now, but I just remember watching what was going on in here, and there was a real discomfort and fear and disconnect, separation. It was like a war. But there was something that wanted to listen, and it resonated with every single topic that came up that day. What day is it? It was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, I did a bit of work with somebody, and I listed everything that the thoughts that I remember you saying. Just what are they? What is the topic? And then just leave it. Just let it. What is it pointing to? But don't engage with it. And I don't know what happened, but something just dissolved. Like it's just not there. It's just such a beautiful place to come and be part of the meeting again, and just sit here and be I don't know, it's just peace, just real peace. There's nothing, just I can't bring anything back that was there. And it's the it's just it's miraculous. Like it's magical how it can be so gripping and then it's not.
And it's important.
So I just wanted to.
Yeah. I want to say it's important for you to appreciate that the nature of these meetings is that somebody's going to say something that will trigger you again. But it's not like it don't presume that that's going backwards or that's back into anything old. It will be something new that will turn up. And working through that will take you back into this beautiful place that you're in now. And so as much as it is really beautiful and absolutely worth appreciating, and that can permeate your whole world as you go through the day, and you just notice things that you've never noticed before because you're so relaxed and open to things. But these people will, as people get into their stuff, we have these mirror neurons, and that'll trigger something for you. So it's a new opportunity. Don't think that it's gone. It hasn't gone. It always is there underneath. Yeah. Good stuff. I love it.
The live listening, there was triggers. It was just triggering, and then I did listen to it. I listened to the same meeting afterwards, and it was just such connection and love. And I don't mean love like people love. I mean like just a real understanding of more depth of where people were coming from.
Yeah.
And it was like listening to a different meeting, and all that had changed was my perception. And
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that because it's just amazing. And I hear what you're saying. it's not an ending. But it
Mm.
seemed so painful at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now all these other people, there are other people, I imagine, who are going to be so envious of what happened for you that, there's Andre's drooling there, wanting the same thing for himself. This is my imagination, of course. I'm provoking here. Yeah.
It's just not personal anymore. It's just not personal.
Yeah, that's the nature of it, isn't it? Yeah, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Well, Dennis, do I see your name as Dennis is awake? I noticed that.
That was just to wind Vince up, Kathleen, but your Leach spotted it.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
There you go. No, I want what you have, Kathleen. How you described that not being driven by fear. That was lovely, because I had a kind of question or something that was on, I say my mind, but it was on my heart today, and what you said about kind of not talking back. You said not talking back for 40 years, but that whole not talking back really resonated. Yeah, that's kind of why I jumped in then. There's something kind of around work and family. I feel a sort of, there's a subtle sadness, and then I'm looking at it, and there's two things going on. There's a work thing, and then there's family, and in some way I don't know how they're connected. And I've been in this new job now. I haven't spoke about it once, but I've been in it about 3 weeks, and I kind of feel like, oh, the other shoe is going to drop soon. I'm kind of not really working hard. I'm coasting, and it'll fall apart soon. Is one sort of worry that's there, and somehow it's connected to family, because when I was up with my family today, my mum and my brother was there, and he hasn't been looking after himself for a long time, and there's a fear of something happening. But not speaking your mind in that environment struck me when you talked about not speaking your mind for 40 years and wanting to say things. And I think I've started to say more lately, but sometimes the scenario doesn't allow for it because there's kids around and people. So there's something there. There's a sadness there, and there's a worry about work. And then I thought, geez, that's like 50% of your life in terms of your day to day. Like, so there's something there that feels sad on the heart, on the chest. And when you spoke, Kathleen, it kind of it resonated. What you said resonated with it, so it felt like it was the right question to maybe bring up. And I suppose it's not being led by fear. Or maybe it's just love. I don't know, but it feels fearful, especially on the work side, definitely. So I don't really know what the question is. There's just a sadness around maybe lack of control, or wanting to fix things, or fix people, or change people, or even fix and change myself. It's like that's all in the mix with it.
And you feel it in the heart area?
Yeah, and chest and the heart.
Is that why you say maybe it's love?
There's a hint of love. Like it's like sadness and love are mixed together.
Pure sadness can be really sweet, and it is an expression of love, I think. Yeah. But if you focus on that sadness aspect of it, it's easier to approach what it's about. What comes to mind the very first thing when I said that? What's it about?
Well, last week when my brother-in-law died, and I was at the funeral, and the whole day went by, and strangely, it just didn't really affect me. And right now, it's like just a dream. It's like you have to get into a space where you can kind of mourn or feel, oh, this person's gone, and if you know all that. I just don't have it. It's like, so that's weird that it didn't have any effect. And so you're questioning, well, am I suppressing? Am I just not affected by it? And then when I was thinking, I actually made a joke, my brother up in the house, and I kind of said, we'll have to do a bet on whose funeral we'll be at next. And he said, oh, it'll be mine for sure. And that kind of stuck in my throat a little bit. And kind of that's what part of me wanted to say, things that I probably haven't said. You know, with anger behind it, about, you know, looking after yourself and doing the right thing, and, you know, not drinking and all this sort of stuff. And then there's a kind of a conflict where you're going, people just do their own thing anyway, and you can't help them, which is bullshit too, because as I say it now, I'm like, you can and you can't. I don't know. It's just something strange about wanting the best for people, but watching people suffer at the same time, and maybe having to watch people die, and eventually watch more people die, and then so you get to the point where you're at your what time when you're going to go. It's just all that kind of in the mix. And you're like, what is the point in all this?
Sounds like compassion, Dennis.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it on. Yeah, yeah.
I know myself as an ex-drinker, alcoholic. My stepdaughter was concerned about her drinking, and her father's back, my ex is back drinking, alcoholic. And when I speak to her, when I see her, my heart goes out to her, and there is a mix of emotions of anger that I can't do anything, and kind of reflection of where I've been at with my own drinking journey, and a projection into the future of where it could go. And the fact that I'm not able to do anything about it, because I know that with drinking problems, the worst thing you can do is talk about them sometimes to the person. It kind of, I don't want her to hide it from me, which is what they tend to do. People tend to do. And so I can relate to that whole mix of emotions that you could have or could be having. It's not just one, it's a multi-layer of feelings and emotions, and wanting to rescue, but feeling powerless in that, and powerless as to what's going to happen to her. It's her own journey. That's just what came. Could be totally wrong.
Yeah. No, and like I like how you started with compassion, because that resonates. But there's definitely something about relationships and maybe having an idea of how a relationship should have been or could have been, and maybe isn't, like a relationship with a brother, and how the idea of that should have been a certain way and it wasn't. So then there's anger and there's annoyance, and then there's maybe now sadness about it as things look to be coming to, a point where
yeah, and I understand that. That's exactly what happened with me and her, because when I was drinking, I was a completely different person. And I see all the missed opportunities and connections that I've now got with her, I could have had then. Also, it seems, obviously.
yeah, there's a strong belief that, well, you could do more. Like, you could do more. You could take time off work. You could go up there, be with the person, mind them, make sure they're eating right, spend time with them, instead of the isolatingness that people who drink or whatever they do to themselves. So you're kind of like, you could do a lot more, and you're not. So, you feel like as humans, we could do so much more for other people. That seems to be a strong belief, but we don't, and that hurts. How much should you do?
So can you see that the consuming nature of the stories about that is, it just really gets you in, and it takes you on a never-ending journey about what could have been and what should have been, and all of that. And where the focus is valuable for you is on what you feel about that. So if you bring it back to that and gain some, or I want to say understanding, but more than understanding. If you grok the nature of your triggers about that, the other stuff, the story stuff that you're focusing on will happen. It'll look after itself. Those happenings will occur because they're there to happen. But the reason that they haven't happened is because of this stuff that's triggered in you. So there can be and it can be really complex, really, really hard to kind of get a handle on, you know. So there's the missed opportunities, but there's a desire to do something, but there's trepidation about doing anything. What will happen if you do something? If you approach him to be closer to him, will you get rejected? Will he be critical? Will he, whatever, you know, these are the things these are the real things that we're responding to. And we're not even aware of that because we're so focused on just the missed opportunities and how it should be. Do you get that nature, that idea that looking at what it provokes in you is the answer? Is a shitty way to put it, but that's it can happen if you recognize what's going on in you. Even though the idea of forcing yourself to do something might sound both attractive and frightening, but look at what's going on in you with this. And I don't know whether we call this serendipity or not, but yesterday morning, my brother came back into my life, my estranged brother. And I'm looking at stuff in me as a result of that one. So, and here you are talking about your relationship with your brother. It's like, wow, you know, life does this. It just presents these things. So, you know, a lot of what I'm saying, of course, is I'm projecting. I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you. What is it that's going on? And I recognize that complexity of the emotions that are there. You know, there's kind of opposite things existing at the same time.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I want to help, but he's fucked. You know, there's like I can't go up, spend more time, talk, but he's not listening. He'll just want money, or you know, the addiction is, you know, his true love. And there's so many. Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around what you're saying, but there's some sort of a knowing about that. Yeah, it's about how I'll react to what I do, as opposed to just helping him. Rejection, failing.
It's like it's almost we've got an inbuilt thing in us where we want to fix other people.
Yeah, which means we have to then tell them first that they're broken, and you know, I'm going to help fix. And you know, with the spiritual stuff, well, there's nothing wrong, there's no problems. You know, this sort of spiritual talk, and you're like, you can't just adopt that in this situation and go, well, he's fine.
No.
But at the same time,
too. Get rid of it. Don't worry about spiritual crap. It's crap. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And like, ultimately, I don't know. I mean, I could be dead tomorrow. He could live another 10 years. You know, the kind of this way. But while we're still deluded.
But I mean, the complexity of it is huge, you know. So again, I can only talk about my own situation with things, but you know, me and my brother, when we were younger, we were great friends. We were really good friends, you know. And then he turned into an arsehole and we weren't friends anymore. I mean, as soon as I say that, I mean, I said it kind of half jokingly, but it's true, but
I know.
it's not true, you know. And there's grief about what's lost, and there's a real desire wanting it back, wanting that closeness and friendship back again, you know. It's crazy stuff. And will it ever happen? And you know, and I wrote to him yesterday, and I said, you know, so what I'm recognizing is going on here is that, you know, I couldn't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks of me, but yet I do with him. I do with him, and I'm wondering, you know, is it really my dad in him that I'm relating to, that where it is important? I will feel wounded if he criticizes me, and he's so good at that. He does that really easily. You know, he's very critical, and so, you know, and here I am feeling defensive about that criticism again. You know, thinking I'm past all this shit, and then here it comes, boom, there it is, right in my face. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can only imagine that your situation has some similarity, the complexity of it, the grief of over the loss, and the desire for something that you know is at least theoretically possible, you know, to experience that love again and have that closeness, and be able to help, to see him healthy and happy, and oh God, all of those things are overwhelming.
But you know, Dennis, have you had drink problems or not? Do you know the situation? Are you familiar
Myself?
with? Yeah.
No, no. Like I know alcoholism. It's in the family.
Mm.
But you know, 'cause when Kathleen was talking about her husband, I was just thinking of my dad. So, and yeah, so it's been in the family. Yeah, it
So
seems to
my
be very
experience,
damaging.
yeah, my experience with alcoholism, because I was in AA for quite a long time, so I've dealt with a lot of it, and I used to sponsor people to overcome it. So, but the thing is, it sounds really cold, but in a sense, you can't help them because they have to reach their own point, and so did I. And sometimes you can enable them by trying to get them out of it. And I know that sounds
Mm.
really weird, but I've seen it over and over again, and it's so true. They've got to kind of reach their own rock bottom with it, whether that's death or suicide or killing themselves with alcoholism. It sounds cold and cruel, but it does seem to have been proven from what I've seen. And I've seen a lot of miracles and people coming out of it. And through the summer with my daughter, you know, going through this dilemma. And the point I got to with it was, it's still all about fucking me. It's still all about me and what I should be doing and what I could do and how I can change her life and how I can make her, how I can fix her. And all the time I'm doing that, particularly if I'm with her, I'm just creating the same disconnection with her. I'm still not loving her. I'm still not being there for her as she is, warts and all. Because
Yeah,
my
that is a
mind
challenge,
wants,
isn't it? To accept.
yeah, because the mind just wants to tell stories about it all the time and keep me apart from her and keep me in fear of alcoholism or where she's going to go with it, where I'm going to project she's going to go. And I projected my daughter going to loads of horrible places and she never went there. Or rather, my mind has, and she never went there. She always came out on top. But to just be with her, just to be being with her and relaxing with her feels like the best thing I could do for her. That feels like love. Even though my mind doesn't want it like that, my mind wants to do something and be proactive my experience is just to be with her, to just be fully open, be with her as much as I can, and sometimes I can't.
Yeah, no, it's good advice, Anne. Yeah, it's
just all
meeting them
me.
today.
Sorry.
No, I heard you. Yeah, all about me. I suppose when we were together today, it's very, like Vince said, it's very deep. It's like the roots go so deep because you're siblings and you grew up together. There's a lot of early conditioning, which triggers when you're together. Yeah, and to get to that place where there's just acceptance of who people are in their, where they are in their life, and not wanting it to be different. In a way, it feels selfish. I suppose it's one of life's lessons, having to watch people suffer.
Well, it's just an addiction and habit of wanting to trap you in again, the mind wanting to trap you in. I mean, I can go down horrible places with guilt because, I mean, she grew up with me and her father who were alcoholics. I feel, well, if I get sucked into it, responsible, guilty, all of that crap. Totally complex feelings and emotions about it, but
yeah, and the drink isn't the problem. To me, the drink is just the medicine for the pain. The alcoholic is taking medicine for the pain. And like in groups like this where we're open and willing to discuss, and get help, and there's many modes of help. When people choose not to get any help and are sure, that their situation is their situation, and they don't even question, so mind identified, and then keep taking their medicine until it kills them.
Yeah, my stepdaughter's on the road, but it's her life. I trust that life will do for her what it's done for me in whatever way it does.
I think, hello, yes. I think one point that you can approach it, it's the perspective of victim. But you have tendency as human, you have tendency to approach other humans and perceive them as victim of their situation, their life, their addiction, their this and that. And it can be very freeing to approach someone to really don't see them as a victim. Just even if you don't say anything, you just acknowledge you have choice, you choose this, and there's no victim, and just maybe just to perceive someone, the perspective of he is not a victim can really change the relationship.
That is so true. That is so true.
Like, oh, okay, you choose again to drink yourself to death today. Okay, now the question is, do I want to spend the day with you? And that's it, I choose. If I choose to, it's not responsibility if you have a shitty day. And if I choose to leave and I feel guilty, it's my responsibility. It has nothing to do with you anyway. So I am not the victim of you either, you see. And when you start to really see that when it is victimhood, it's everywhere. But when you catch it, you can start to really free yourself from this and start to really feel freedom, not only for yourself, but from the other. And because everyone is free, everyone is free to kill himself in the way he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Eating bad foods, not sleeping, playing too much, not doing whatever. I mean, why not? It's your life. You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, it feels like that
And
day
there
you
is
mentioned
empathy.
there. Yeah, but that day of kind of, well, I show up if you show up and you drink all day, then I have a choice, and it feels like I made that choice years ago, which is why we don't see each other, because that's all that happens, that it's just drink and there's no relationship. In one way, it's like the person is already dead and you're just watching. It's hard to explain.
And that's what happened with me and my ex-husband. And I felt the most loving thing to do was leave the situation. Rather than have an inauthentic, enabling relationship with him.
Yeah, so anyway, I suppose I just wanted to bring forward that sadness that was there.
It's heartbreaking.
To get some help to work with it, yeah. And I don't know how it's connected to work, because the work thing came up first. I suppose I'm just distracted as well, and I'm not willing to work as hard as I used to. So I'm kind of judging, well, you're not really working hard lately, you're kind of coasting a bit, and that's not good. So there's a whole thing around that too. They're connected.
It might be useful to look for a common base between work and your brother.
What comes to mind is like my work was always me saying I'm not like him or I'm not like them.
Can be a good technique to turn these things around and see. So if you said, I'm not like them, if you could turn it around and say, they're not like me, or just play around with it and say, what is the difference? And then you get into what is important to me that doesn't seem important to them. Is that where the difference is? Etc. Just play around with it. And if you apply it to work and then apply it to your brother, you might start to see that they do rest on the same foundation.
It feels like I'm being sucked back into it, sort of, like you said, I'm not like them. But in truth, it's something to do with this whole authentic awakening and being, your authentic self or whatever that.
Mm-hmm.
That in truth, I'm exactly, or I will be exactly like them. And the attempt to kind of run away from it is just so tiring. I think I have an idea that if I just stop, I'll just be exactly like them.
I think it's very good, if you see someone who is addict, if you ask yourself, do I am an addict, you will always find some kind of addiction, some level. Everyone is addict. You can be addicted to being a person, all the way to anything. So I think it's very good if you start to realize, I think you are starting to see that you are the whole human spectrum. If the conditions are presented to you, you can be a killer or you can save the world. It's just you everything is in you. You have the whole spectrum, even if you don't express all of the spectrum, but all of the spectrum, it's in you in possibility. So you can connect to everyone. And I just wanted to precise that connecting with someone is not suffering with. And I think it's very important. Remember that.
Thanks, guys. I'll just sit with it.
I want to share that my brother have a very, very terrible relationship with his wife, which is, I don't want to talk too much because it's kind of personal story, but she was institutionalized into psychiatry 3 or 4 times, and it's very very troubling psychology of his wife, and a lot of trouble around this, and a whole mess, for years of whole mess. And they have 2 kids, so they were kind of in the storm of this story. And it helped me a lot, and I wanted to help my brother so much for so many years. And I could touch this space of deeply accepting, someone's situation, and be able to be with my brother without being myself suffering. It was kind of the last difficulty I had. And last time I saw him to me, it was a great shift, because I could feel my own happiness, and I could feel where he was. I mean, I could just be with him in the way he was. And I was perfectly at peace. I wasn't feeling guilty or judgmental or I'm better or less. I was just like a fact, right? I'm feeling this, and he seemed to feel something else. And that's where we both are at the moment, maybe that's it. And it was a very nice feeling. And my realization was that the only thing that can help him, it's me being at peace with myself and being joyful. And that was even if I speak about my joy or not, doesn't really matter. It was really to be myself, happy, deeply happy. And
Yeah, that sounds really nice, David. Like that's you made me remember that I tend to freeze in some way, and I can feel there's a lot of anger and unsaid things that you want to say. Well, why are you doing this shit? Why do you drink? Why do you hate yourself so much? What, like, do you not see that it's not your fault that you had a tough time growing up and you cope? You want to say all these things to somebody and you don't, because you freeze, and there's shame, and then you point out something really important, because I'd forgotten about it, but years ago, it was part of the reason of my seeking was to wake up, just like you said, so that you can be a space of your own happiness and meet people where they're at. And that was kind of one of the reasons behind it, in a way, to help people, to help my family, so there was a kind of a conditioning on it. Well, if I wake up, whatever way I can help people, I can help them the best way by being awake. And I remember in the early days with Adja, he'd say the best thing you can do for the world is to wake up. And so I spent so much time trying to do that, as opposed to being in relationships with people and spending time with people. So there's a guilt around that too. Yeah.
Yeah, this is this is the confusion that the word awakening bring, because you can just shift awakening with happiness, and it will probably be more useful, you know.
I suppose in summary, life is just very sad sometimes. And maybe if I'm willing to feel it fully, that there'll be an opportunity for other times when life's really happy.
One way to approach it is you can receive life. It's kind of have an infinite flavor, you know, an infinite taste. It can taste like anything. It's really it's a infinite spectrum of experience. And yeah, sadness happens, nostalgia happens. And there's nothing wrong with it. But often the nostalgia, the melancholy, this kind of sadness, it's when I set this word to me, for example, I have the image of my father right now. Because I feel this sadness when I say sadness, and this kind of a sort of sadness, and it come up, and I have the image of my father. But the true, what is below that, it's the love I have for him, right? Like I wanted more of this love, I wanted more connection. So the one way we can, the good story we can build, it's the the impulse. It's really it's beautiful, the impulse, and then it kind of have a taste of sadness. But if I feel sad in relationship to my father, it's because there is some connection there, and I can focus on this connection also as I focus on the sadness. I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. I'm just saying, you know, just you can
It
always
makes
open everything.
it makes perfect sense. And the sadness is the first piece, but then it's really just love, and it's a connection. It's
Exactly.
yeah.
But the sadness, it's a part of it. So just don't try to get rid of it. It's the way you love your brother at the moment with this taste, you know. It's part of it. It's how love presents itself to you in the moment. Maybe you can approach it that way. It can support you.
Yeah. This whole spiritual journey started after I lost my first brother 20 years ago.
I have sadness that come when I'm sad. I laugh always. Don't worry about that. But I have sadness who could come up right now because just the thought of losing my brother is just unthinkable. So I have this oh, you know, just wow.
Mm.
It's I cannot even imagine.
occurs to me that the idea of accepting is worth investigating a little. And what is it that we need to accept about the situation in order for it to enable the expression of love and connection and so on? And the idea of accepting is just an idea, but it's that feeling that tells us that acceptance is there, that feeling that's impossible to describe, but comes from this idea of accepting. But we're not accepting the alcoholism or the behavior. Well, we're not even accepting the existence of somebody else. What we're accepting is our attitude towards that, our feeling towards that. And when our feeling towards that is uncomfortable, it's hard to accept. And when there's sadness, it's maybe not comfortable. You know, when there's ideas about how it should be, that's definitely uncomfortable. That stuff. When there's ideas that something needs to be fixed, that's uncomfortable. That's hard to accept as well.
But you've nailed it, Vince, for me there. What's hard to accept is my own limitations, my own conditioning, my limitations. You know, even how we were raised, how people spoke to each other, what people said, versus maybe another family where things would come more natural. You know, like, how are you? How are you feeling today? Are you okay? Just that ability to express and speak. The conditioning kind of blocks that. It's not part of our toolkit, and it's you try to then see it modeled in other places, and you see the positivity around it. You try to model that, and I've done more of that over the years, but it is very much a sort of a conditioning. I have to accept my limitations. It feels really true to me right now.
Mm.
I think this is very important what you say, and maybe this is where the spiritual path become misused, because we often say this kind of awakening from something, or this unconditional experience that suppose that you can experience some kind of human experience without any condition, you know. But that's not my case, and I suspect that it's the human condition is the conditionment itself. So you know, it's essential to understand that exactly what you're saying right now. You know, you are conditioned in a certain way, and the condition to work in this life, it's the only thing you have. So you know, we have to be kind with ourselves, and we have with our patterns and addiction, as we have to be kind with others, because we don't have anything else to function as individuals, but our condition.
Mm. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to sit with it.
Thanks, Dennis. How are you, David Wilcox? Wheellock Wilcox. David.
I just wanted to ask David, did I hear you correctly say that sadness is the human condition? I'm having a hard time. hear it
Yeah,
now.
sorry.
Okay.
No, I didn't say that sadness is the human condition. I did not say that.
You didn't. Okay. So that was me thinking that's what you said. Because I don't think of it. I don't think of life as being sad. Or maybe no. I've been. I can come here and always hear something that resonates with me about what's going on for me. It's wonderful to be able to come here and to know that I'm human by listening to other people. I've been going through some strong emotions. I used to call them dark nights of the soul. I'd wake up in the morning and feel that way for half the day, and then I'd just meet and talk to somebody, talk to anybody, and it would just gradually fade away. I think it has to do with my mortality and my feeling of helplessness over my mortality and over my being able to have an effect on anything at all. I just in a situation, professional situation, I just had rage just boiling up, and the intensity of the rage makes me question my thinking and what's going on. And it's a complex situation. Somebody I've known for years, been working with for years. And so there's all of that stuff that's built up. But then I heard something on Friday that just, I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. I feel strongly enough about it so that I think I'm going to break off contact. And I don't do that very often. But then I think I've been angry for a long time, and it just it found something to well up, to bring out the rage. I can feel indignation and self-righteousness. So I question that, but I also, I consider it to be something that was very immoral. And I feel like I have to say something about it. And I think that's part of what's going on in me, is that I'm beginning to feel as though I'm beginning to need to say things. And I've more or less talked myself out of them before. I guess I will try to find somebody to talk with about it, somebody else in my business. And I mean, it kept me up for a lot of the night. And that feeling of helplessness, and not knowing what to do, really not knowing what to do. And what I'll do is, my philosophy is, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. And that's what I will do until I decide if I do come to a decision what I need to do.
So are you in contact with the what arises in you, the difficulty, the conflicting aspects of it that go one way, back the other way, back the other way, back and forward, that kind of stuff. That in you, that so it's so easy to get involved in the situation out there, what's going on, and then to think about that, whether it's right or wrong, or whether you need to be involved in it or not, all of those kind of things. But that's always an avoidance of what comes up in you. And that's because what comes up in you is unpleasant. That feeling that you've got that something's not right. That's where the juice is for you. And that's the other stuff will take care of itself. You'll say something will be said or not said, something will be done or not done, all by itself. You don't need to make decisions about doing that. They'll just happen.
Right.
But what's going on inside you, that's where the juice is. That's the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm questioning myself on this, and I'm a little cynical about the intensity of my feelings about it. And I can go back and see that this was the basis was established as time went by. And then so I'm questioning myself about the intensity of the feeling that I have about it. I'm a little cynical about me. But on the other hand, there's this thing that's going on that needs to be addressed. But
sure.
That's not what we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about the intensity of the feelings makes me suspicious. But then I'm feeling intense feelings these days. So maybe that's happening. Or maybe the intense feelings is then just running away from something else. Or
well, when you judge the feelings that you've got, when you say that you're cynical about them, you know, that's the mental engagement about your feelings is a way to not feel the feelings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything the mind gets involved in is an escape mechanism.
Yeah, but the feelings themselves is mind junk.
Sure, I mean, it is that we respond to that mind junk. Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So there's the mind junk, and we respond to the mind junk. But I see what you mean. I can see it. Yeah, it is. It's a way of sort of scurrying away from getting lost in the minutiae of it, instead of just having the intense physical sensation of wanting to destroy.
Yep. Yeah, and the intensity really that shouts out something too, doesn't it? But we mustn't come to conclusions about what it shouts out. In order to examine it, we need to not come to a conclusion. We need to keep just examining it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but examining
ends it.
Examining is getting away from it too.
Yeah.
It seems to come in waves. It sort of waylays me, and then the motor, the motor just starts up, and all of this justification and all of this stuff, and I'm justified, and I'm right, and all the rest of it. But then that's something that comes after the initial bubbling up of this, being taken by surprise by the intensity of this thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. It's all great.
Yes. Well, it's good. Good that you see that.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah. Just
it's a great journey of discovery.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is the most important part of it is having a good sense of humor.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you gotta laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. When you see how ridiculous the whole process is, yeah, it's humorous.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
And
one,
the thing is uh, when that process starts, I'm believing it. I'm buying into it.
yes.
And,
It's very
and
seductive, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. 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 And then the thing is, I get to see that and I see how seductive it is. And then I question the whole damn thing from the whole thing. You gotta laugh at it.
Mm.
But I'm doing fine. Enjoying this.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I
I
feel
do have trouble when there are silences that come out in here. Something like what goes on in my mind is, oh damn, Vince is gonna call on me. I know he's gonna call on me. He's gonna call on me. Am I ready for him? He's gonna do it, you know. So I've been thinking of just what's I don't think is ghosting the right word, or sort of being a voyeurist in here. And yeah. But
yeah, you can always say to me, I don't want to talk today. That's fine, you know, like don't ever. And I'm trying to get it where people will just feel that in themselves that okay, there's a silence, I can talk, rather than me calling them, you know. But I keep getting coming back to this.
Problem is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, nobody talks, and then everybody talks at once, and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, I don't mind picking on people, but but you've got to know that you can say I don't want to talk if you don't want to talk. That's fine.
The
Yeah.
thing is it's not that simple, because there's a part of me that does want to talk. There's another part of me that should talk. So there's all this ambivalence going on. Will he or won't he? It's like, you know, is he going to propose marriage to me, or am I going to, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't sound like much, but when you're in a in a storm of emotion and thoughts, experience, it's all of the aspect of experience are equally present, and they are equally equally in intensity. So it doesn't sound like much, but if you are in a storm of emotion, you know, you can watch a white wall, like there is one behind me, you know, because the emotion is there, the story is there, and the white wall is just there too, you know, and you can watch it and oh yeah, it's there. It's as much present as the story.
Yes.
And there is a lot of object present in your surrounding. And you can notice this, and sound, you know, sound is present also. And maybe there's a bird, you know, and maybe the bird, it's very interesting the way and there's a car, or maybe how, you know, how is the sound of the bird and the car mixing together. At the same time, there's this storm calling you, right? So, you know, you can, instead of trying to resolve, to deal, to feel emotion, you can also just move all around and see that there is a whole universe to be seen and recognized around you, you know? And this can give you a lot of room to breathe.
But you have to remember to do that.
Yeah. Or you have to suffer enough in the storm to want to do something else. Or you have to suffer enough in the storm that gives you the impulse to do something else, you know?
Yes.
So suffering, it can be a good impulse to shift things.
Yeah.
How have you been, Kenneth? You were not in a good place last time we spoke.
I'm in a better place now. Yeah, I guess a little bit of discoveries. Uh, um, I started one day. I was lying down on a rock and I started saying the mantra that this is the best it could get. Like this moment is the best it could get, and there was intentions coming up always to do that, do this, do that, do this. There was a lot of self-doubt, and I could clearly see that it was like a lack that was driving me to seek or do anything. And now there's this acceptance of anything, like everything, like even the resistance to the resistance is fine. Yeah. So I would say in a good place now.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Isn't that amazing how just something like that can just change the whole world, because the whole world is in fact your perception of it. And yeah, that's great. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
But acceptance, there can be, you start with acceptance and then you can feel appreciation. And this is what I was kind of pointing to with the world, with object, with the it's not only okay, I accept this is not, no, it's I accept, but oh my God, this is just, it's just
Perfect.
mind blowing, just vision. What, how can any object just be there? How is it possible? And you start to feel it, to really fall in love with the experience, with this. So appreciation, it's also a very good word to put in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I guess something else is I started seeing, I guess I was really fighting a particular thought when I was really trying to get to unbound consciousness, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I was trying to not make the mind, not make myself go back into the mind and interpret information out there. And I was like really, really trying myself to not interpret, perceive, and there was a lot of resistance to perceiving. And I guess by really, I don't know, yeah, where is that going? Yeah, I lost it. By really just accepting, not accepting, I guess, but loving that thought, because that thought was there to protect me once upon a time, and I was really separate from a dangerous world, and I needed to interpret information, analyze things, and solve the puzzle, make a map. And by loving that self-doubt, like Vince told me last time, I think that was really helpful, just loving it.
Mm. How are you traveling, Scott?
Not all that good, I guess. I just keep seeing all this shit that I do, and I'm fucking figuring out that I hate my fucking guts. Fucking hate myself. It's like I don't think
So where in the body do you feel that hate? Is it clenched fists? Is it a knot in the belly? Where do you feel it?
It's like it's attached to shame. It's like my whole gut from my chest all the way down, but like it goes down even lower where I've never been able to feel shit before. It's like I maybe I'll tell a short story. I always thought that there was like shame or guilt down there, but because I couldn't find it, so I thought there's probably something there. But guess all the shakeup recently, and then so I thought, well, I did this little meditation, like a guided meditation about shaming, and I know about the bubble of reality and the mirror, and what you see in another is yourself, and I always had trouble finding what it was in me that I was seeing. And after I did that meditation, I went and took a shower. I take a cold shower after I'm done, and I usually feel great. And I get out of the shower and go change, and I just stuff just starts popping at me like this and that, and seeing how it's like I just create this veneer around me and try to make myself look like I'm a good person, like I'm a friendly, good person who cares about people, and I'm, empathetic, and I'm this and I'm that. But just under the surface, just a tiny bit on the surface, my thoughts are flying all around. And I guess I wasn't really fully seeing them because they're terrible. Shit it's terrible. It's like the things I think about other people, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Do you do that on purpose? Think those terrible?
Oh,
So these are just thoughts that turn up, and what you hate is the nature of them. Is that right? The flavor of those thoughts are dark, malicious, or however you want to describe them. And that's what you hate. Is that what you say? When you said before you hate yourself, I'm hearing you now say it's these thoughts that are what you hate.
It's the thoughts. It's in the middle of it.
So
I remember well here.
Sorry?
In the middle of it, like part of me is still conscious and remind me that there is no you to feel this way. So there's a part of me that's aware of that, and whatever it is that gets stuck down in your body, that shit just fucking comes out.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just the thoughts, but
No, let's not say it's just a thought, because it's not just a thought. There are thoughts there, but there's something else attached to that thought. There's some connection between that thought and your body, right? And so you're saying that is me. I am a horrible person because you've got that. So that's the connection between your thoughts and what's going on. It's not just a thought. So if we just say, oh, no, that's just a thought, let's dismiss it. That's just bypassing. That's just an escape from what's going on. It's the connection between the thought and the feeling that is the real big thing here. That's the hook. Right? That's where the identification takes place, and that's what we eventually want to see go. But we want to see it go not because we bash it on the head with a hammer. We want to see it go because it's no longer needed. We want to take away what's underneath it, what it rests on. So there's these nasty, horrible thoughts that turn up. And then this cascade of responding, of reaction to them. Right. But where do these nasty thoughts turn up? How did they obtain their nature? Who taught you to think like that? Who was your role model that showed you
My
how
dad.
to think like that? Your dad. Right. So
Yeah.
So your dad was he showed you how to be that way. And for some reason you adopted that. You accepted and took that in and became like you became like your dad. And how you felt about your dad is now how you feel about yourself.
I don't know. There's some memories of specific stuff, but like a lot of it must have been empathetic because I don't really, I can't really identify that stuff in him. But he hardly talked at all to me. You know?
Mm. So would you say that you are responsible for the nature of your thoughts? Or could you accept that was the way you were conditioned? They were the circumstances in which you lived for so long, and you kept seeing that happening. That was what you were exposed to. And maybe part of that was you wanted to feel good towards your dad.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you kind of became like him. We do that kind of thing, eh?
While I was breaking down, I passed all that stuff passed through my head. Like, yep, I'm not responsible for these thoughts. These thoughts aren't mine. I'm not guilty. I'm not responsible. The thing that happens is that the body just like keeps going no matter anyway. Like part of me was like happy that I was starting to actually have feelings because I mean, even though I think I have a lot of feelings, I never cry, never, break down.
Right.
So part of me was happy and part of me is fucking pissed.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm doing this, to feel worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did your dad ever break down? Did you ever see your dad cry?
No, only anger, and I guess, and that's another. That's the only thing I could ever express would be anger, and only occasionally, But
Yeah. Do you think it's possible? Have you ever had the fantasy that if certain conditions prevail, that the nature of your thoughts can change?
Yeah.
I don't mean just wanting them to. I mean, have you ever thought that it might happen?
Yeah. That's why I was a little happy that, I don't know if I was happy, but I was thought, oh, I'm breaking down.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'd like to affirm for you that that is a major thing. If you were never able to cry before, that the fact that that can happen now is a really big step forward. That is taking off a huge amount of the armor that was there before. But I didn't hear an answer to my question. Do you think that you are responsible for the nature of your thoughts, or do you accept that they were conditioned by the pond that you were swimming in for a large part of your life?
Yeah, I know. I I accept that. I mean, I know that,
Yep.
or whatever.
So that knowing is
I
valuable.
think I know.
Yep. Well, even if it's only an intellectual thing, that's okay at this stage because it opens up possibilities. And that's a big thing. You know, you were conditioned to be the way, to think the way that you thought. And now you accept A, that there is a possibility that will be different, and B, that you recognize that it was conditioning that did it. And guess what? You don't get that conditioning here. Well, it's not, you don't have to guess that. You can see that quite clearly. You don't get that conditioning here. You get the opposite. You get a different kind of conditioning. Right? The nature of our thoughts is a habit.
Right.
Right? And because you're not responsible, why the fuck would you hate yourself for it? It's and that's a key, you see. Now we don't want to get rid of that hate before we understand that there's a reason why that hate is there. And that is because it's based on the belief that you are your thoughts.
It feels like the hate has been there since the beginning, or sometime in the far past, and that actually seeing what I'm actually thinking and why, knowing why, kind of like just made it explode or something.
Yep. That stopped you being able to hide from it, hold it down, suppress it, that kind of stuff, deny it. Yeah. But it is a move in the right direction. And what we want from this is exactly what you did with your hands a second ago. We want release from this. Yeah. And release comes not by denying it or pushing it away or suppressing it or saying stupid things like there's nobody here who can feel it or anything like that, you know. The
That didn't help.
release comes from loving it, from accepting that there it is, and that's the nature. And that's the really positive thing about that is that that can be replaced by something with a different nature. Right. And you already do some of that. You just don't give it the importance that it deserves, or however you want to put it. Right. You have loving thoughts about other people. I know you do. Right? But you go, oh, they're not important, but this horrible shit is. So you see what I mean? It's a case of It's a case of a perspective again. How do we see these things? Right? So I see these nasty thoughts that you hate so much as something that's been there for a long time, but they're on the way out. They're being replaced by other stuff. But you kind of still see that you're stuck with them, that you have no control. And that's part of where the hate comes from, that you can't just dispense with them, get rid of them easily. But every time you have them, right, instead of being triggered into that hate, that self-hate, that hate for you and saying that you are a horrible person, I mean, that's the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. You know, you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts appear to you just like the breeze does when you walk outside, right? They're something you don't control. You don't know where they come from or where they go, right? You just know that they happen, boom, and they're gone, right? When you walk outside and that breeze touches your face, right, and you feel that breeze touching your face, you don't hate the breeze. You don't feel bad about it. It's just there. It's just a fact. Right? And your thoughts are exactly like that. They just come and go just like the breeze. And sometimes they're warm and sometimes they're cooler, but they're just random. Right? But they are there. And every time you recognize that you're having one of those thoughts or a cascade of those thoughts or however they turn up, every time one of those turns up, the critical, really important, really valuable moment is the moment when you go, there's one of those thoughts. There it is. That recognition that it's happened, that is a key point. That is what will train your brain to do it differently. The recognition that it's turned up. Right? And if instead of the recognition that it's turned up, the hate for it comes up, then all we do is we solidify it. We make it stronger. But the moment you recognize that it's turned up in an objective way, without a judgment about it, just recognize that it's there, it gets short-circuited. And when we short-circuit these things, the satisfaction that comes with the completion of it, which is just part of the way things work, that satisfaction doesn't happen, and that kind of kills it. That makes it less likely to reoccur because it's not giving you that feeling of, completion that happens. And so the recognition, that moment of recognition is a really, really key point. And you might have heard me say this before, but a great thing you can do at that point, that moment of recognition, is to laugh. Even if you got to fake it, laugh, because that just drives out the stress hormones and replaces it with feel-good hormones. You get that oxytocin in the body and, oh boy, it feels great. And that, even if you fake a laugh, that still happens. So it's a great exercise to do. Every time you recognize that you were lost in those thoughts, have a laugh. If you're by yourself, laugh out loud. That's even better. But if you're in company and you can't do that, just smile to yourself inside. It still works. Still do that, get that hormone change. Right? And best of all, you short circuit what was going to happen, which was a cascade off into those nasty thoughts. Do that religiously. Now, you will always reach a point of recognizing that was happening. Sometimes it might not be quickly. Sometimes it might be hours later. Sometimes it might be well after it's finished. But it doesn't matter. There will always be a moment when you will recognize that you were lost. Every time it happens. But the more you practice this, the quicker that recognition will come as well. And when you will eventually, you'll crack up laughing when this happens. You'll go, oh, I was about to get into that. And you saw it before it actually started. You saw that you were about to do it. And when that happens, you don't even have to fake a laugh. You'll just laugh spontaneously. It'll be hilarious. Yeah, wow, you can say, I caught it. But, it is that recognition. And that from, in a matter of a couple of weeks of doing that, you'll change the nature of your thought. Yeah.
Okay.
And for
Thank you.
somebody like you who really gets into doing things, that's a great exercise.
Yeah.
So every time it happens, it's actually a good opportunity. So you can even feel good about the fact that it's happening. And if you discover that you're into hating yourself because of it, that's also good. Right? The moment you recognize that that's what's going on, laugh at that. In fact, any negative emotion, any unpleasant feelings that come up should trigger, we want it to trigger a recognition where you laugh. If a negative emotion is turned up, something has triggered it. And firstly, we want to get out of the habit of it. And once we do that, if there's still any remnants of it, we'll dig them out and do something about them. There may not be though. That may be enough to completely eradicate them. But that's not our sole purpose. Our sole purpose is for you to really grok at a body level that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are concepts. No surgeon can find a thought. You can't bottle it. No, there's nothing there. It's just a concept. It's just an idea. Every thought is a story. And that's the only reality they have until we respond to them. Once we respond, when we've got an experience that is something actual.
Thank you. I'll do that.
Yeah, right.
Scott, I bring something up that's been playing on me a bit.
Yeah, go.
It might be to do with what you mentioned the other day, Vince, but I've noticed it more since then with me speaking yesterday and also speaking today. And in the past, it's always been a problem most of the time. I suppose in a way it's similar to what Scott was talking about, which reminded me, well, no, it was already there, but I mean, I don't have very critical thoughts about people as far as I'm aware. And if I do, I don't really take them seriously. But I have a lot of problem with me. And when I speak, basically, when I'm speaking, I'm okay. And I don't really notice a lot going on. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, Vince, but afterwards, I cringe a bit. And it's a fear of how I'm coming across. And I have this idea that I'm coming across very hard or very angry or wrong.
And where do you get that idea from? Where does that originate, that idea that you're coming across hard and angry? Has somebody told you that?
Mm, my husband kind of, because I was very I don't know. I'm kind of blocking off now a bit when I speak about it. Yeah, I think from my husband. I think my husband was my best guru, and I learned a lot in terms of softening me. Very painful, quite abusive relationship, but some brilliant lessons. But I think it's maybe left impressions on me.
Mm.
I don't think I've had a lot of, well, I haven't had any acknowledgement through childhood. So there feels like the need to be heard, be recognised, maybe want to be right, want to speak up. I feel like I've got a lot I want to give, but I don't know how to give it, and I feel it all comes out wrong.
Mm.
Then when like yesterday, I played it back, and I'd got out of that habit of playing things back and checking on myself, but I started doing it again. And when I play, it's like a paranoia. And when I play it back, I'm like, it's completely okay. But in my mind, my self-image is terrible. And I've been told this by friends as well. You know, friends will say you're a good communicator and things like that. But to me, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't, you know, and I just can't get to the bottom of it. I can't, I just, it just baffles me. I have no clarity on it. I've been doing lots of writing about it today to try and get to the bottom of it and explore, but I suppose it's a form of self-loathing, or you know, it's like bounces two ways. It's like, is it arrogance and perfectionism, or is it self-loathing? You know, I don't really know.
Yeah. It's an escape to put labels on it. So that's not the appropriate thing to do.
Mm.
And the way to investigate it is to not engage the mind about it, but rather to go to the feeling when it happens. What is the feeling? And then separate the sensation from the stories in that feeling. There will be a revelation about what it's based on, what's going on. Right. But the moment you go, oh, is it self-loathing or whatever label you come up with, that's just a way of not feeling it. Because it's a bit shitty. It doesn't feel good, I guess, does it? You know?
No, it's cringy.
Yeah. So get into, where do I feel this cringy? Where is it? What is it? What are the sensations in the body that's going on? And just move towards those, and they'll shift around. You know, it's almost like you've got to chase them, because as you get close to those sensations, they'll become into something different, and they'll move around to a different part of the body. But you're just looking to, what you really want to do is get intimate with those sensations. You really want to get close enough to give them a hug, kind of thing, metaphorically. And so by keeping on dismissing the stories, just notice what they're about, but then dismiss them, or rather push them into the background. Don't dismiss them, just push them into the background. Say, you wait over there, I'm busy attending to this sensation. And right, and the closer you get to that sensation, the more stories will reveal themselves about what it's about.
Mm.
And so again, don't like the same thing with Scott. Don't get carried away by what it means, because that's just another story that we overlay on the top. That's Panilla's post-it note on reality. That's what that is. That's those stories. And so just notice the story, notice what they are, but have no opinion about the story. Just ask them to wait in the background while you're busy doing this, chasing the sensation. It's a skill to develop, it takes a bit of practice to get good at that, because the stories can be so seductive because they're you and they know all your buttons. They press your buttons in a way that makes it extremely hard not to get sucked into those stories.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, you talk about, Angelo talks about it's what I'm practicing, but what am I feeling? What am I feeling?
Yes, always.
It is a practice, yeah. I think with this one, it's whether the thoughts are hooking me into too quickly, the reaction, or whether I'm finding it hard to locate the feeling about it.
Well, the only reason it's be hard is because it's hiding behind stories. There's no other reason for it to be hard to get at those feelings. It's always because that's where it hides, behind thoughts, stories about stuff. And every story that turns up, especially in the beginning more so, but every story that turns up, its sole job is to lead you away from that feeling.
Yeah. Do you think that there's ever just stories then?
No. We respond to every story. We can't not. And every story is a response to an experience, whether it's a conscious experience or an unconscious experience, doesn't matter. But every story so it's a circular thing, We have a story experience all day, every day. That's what goes on.
So do you think, because this has been going on a long time, and I'm not sure that I'm not doing that sometimes. So a little bit of what I was saying yesterday about this circular thing is like, so then do I just keep on feeling the feelings without getting to the bottom of it?
Well, yeah, again, so getting to the bottom of it.
There's a core belief behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what I said yesterday.
Yeah. And they will reveal themselves, those things. So don't think about getting to the bottom of it. That again is another thought that's going to lead you away from it. And
well, the only reason I'm mentioning that, Vince, is because I have explored it for quite a long time, and
if
probably had the feelings about it too.
Yeah,
but
sure.
but there's a part of me that's not convinced that is going to resolve it.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. So look at this thing called being convinced.
It's a mind.
You're just talking about, exactly. You're talking about stories that can be believed, stories that seem credible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And if you don't get to the bottom of it, if it keeps going around and around, then it's because, again, you're getting waylaid. You're getting diverted from it.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. Yeah, you just keep diverting with stories all the time about avoiding. Yeah.
So if
it's gone, like I had a bit of it after I spoke to Dennis today and yesterday, or not just Dennis, when I've spoken to other people, and then now it's gone. Would I wait for it to come up again, or how could I then explore that? Unless it comes up tomorrow and I can't playing the video to see what I've said.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I was waiting for you to say what does that mean? Yeah, look, it's a trick, isn't it? You know, it 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 it'll never be the same thing that comes back. It's always slightly different. It's always a variation of it, you know, so these things subtly change. Right. So what it's appropriate to drop the idea that that didn't work because here I am back again in the same place. You're never in the same place. You can't possibly be in the same place. Things are different. You've changed. Right? So there's always a movement, and it's always a movement forward. There's never, you can't possibly go back. Nobody can go back. That's a ridiculous idea of going back to the way you were before. It might seem similar, but it's always going to be a new situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got that firmly in your mind, when things seem like they've come back, it's a progression, right? So what's come back is something that's different enough that it can be treated as an original. So no problems there, you know, like it's not like, oh, that didn't work, right? What it is, here's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I can't see that it's different, I know that it is the next thing.
So if it's a thought like, well, say like, was that appropriate to say that? Was that helpful to say that? Did that sound hard? Did that sound angry? Which are my concerns? Then you're saying there's a feeling behind those stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, every one of those thoughts is just rubbish, total rubbish. But it's the feeling that triggers them that's there. That's the value. That's something to look at.
Mm.
You don't
So
need to
the feeling
measure.
that's underneath a certain amount of self-doubt,
Yes,
doubt, the feeling underneath doubt.
absolutely. Yep.
So it's how does doubt feel?
Yeah, yeah. And look underneath the label, because I mean, doubt's not doubt. Doubt's a thousand different things.
Mm.
And sometimes and a lot combinations of things sometimes. So, you know, what is being doubt? If you verbalize it, not as an end result, but as like a label, it's a good place to start looking. It's a general area kind of thing. So if you verbalize, you know, oh, a doubt, oh, this is doubt. Okay, I doubt that, and then you just wait for whatever comes to mind. The first thing that comes to mind has always got some validity. I doubt that, or I am doubting what, right? Just those kind of little questions you can ask yourself, and you just capture what comes up. You don't say, oh, that's good or not good, or that's right or not right. There are feelings that will be associated with it that'll tell you how appropriate they are. But it's just the technique of saying.
So if I went through it, like when I say now, I'm doubting myself, you know, and then it can go, I'm not good enough, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Right, so where's the feeling associated with that? What part of the body is the feeling? Right, so straight away, we've got away from the concept that is a doubt. Right? And we verbalize those words, and they're going to give us a feeling.
Mm.
I feel like I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Right? Where do I feel that? What part of the body am I experiencing that feeling?
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
It almost certainly will be a feeling of heaviness.
Just faintly feel it though in my
Yes, yeah,
stomach.
okay. Well, that's good. So then head towards where you feel it, even if it's faint. Sometimes you can go, oh, I don't even know if I'm imagining it. Well, that's okay. That's fine.
Mm.
Right? go with where the imagination takes you, because it's,
Right.
imaginations are, they're linked to real things,
Yeah, because my mind does say that. You're just imagining that you can't feel anything.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. You can't feel anything.
Yep.
Which is all still self-doubt. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so what we're doing here, to all of us in a way, is we're developing skills, getting tools. We're putting tools in our toolbox that we can use when certain situations arise. And it's crazy because this toolbox seemed like we needed a million tools, but we really only need a couple.
Yeah.
And they all do the
I
same
know when I do it, when I can go to the feeling, it's easy, dare I say, but it's the addiction to thought. And I was thinking a lot about when we were talking addiction to alcohol. They're killing themselves with alcohol. Some people are killing themselves with thoughts.
Absolutely. Oh, I tell you what, 100% of the suffering in the world comes from thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I did look on my daughter as like a victim and felt sorry for her, but that's quite arrogant because I'm thinking, do you know, I can torture myself even more. I'm not drinking anymore, but I can torture myself in my mind. I could end up killing myself before she does.
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah, you can call yourself arrogant. That's good torture. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, yeah.
But if when you see those words happen, you don't just kind of swim in them. You see them happening. They kind of become a little bit objective, and you go, "Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, where's the feeling associated with that?" And then you realize that no, you weren't arrogant at all. That was just an idea about that. What you're relating to was this idea that, oh, I know something. And then you go, well, what's underneath that? And then you go, oh God, I really want to fix her, and then you go, well, that's arrogant to think that it's possible that I can fix her. What's underneath that? And then, of course you get back to the point where it's, oh, I want to fix myself. I think there's something wrong. And then underneath that, and see, it takes you down and down and down and down all the time. Yeah.
So then that leads me back to the same place, that getting to the core belief that there's something wrong and right.
Yeah,
that is the core belief, isn't it?
And this idea that I've got, that I know what is right and wrong. That's even more fundamental underneath that core belief. Yeah.
So I'm just realizing as we speak, I didn't realize I was so hung up on right and wrong and shoulds and shouldn'ts, because there is like, I shouldn't have spoken then, and I tend to use you as like, oh, Vince won't be happy with me now. I'm kind of looking for your expression, waiting for you to go like this, like, no, don't speak now, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that, because I'm doing it wrong, and I'm saying the wrong thing, and I don't have the authority to speak. How dare I?
Yeah.
Dare I, whatever.
It's hilarious, isn't it? Yeah. I've done that. I've done that once, and that was my shit that I was expressing, not yours, not about you at all. Yeah.
Yeah, but funny enough, it didn't bother me then because I just rocked myself to be quiet, but you did that at the same time, so it didn't trigger me. But there is this, I've got this you in my head as this kind of authoritarian figure now that's either displeased. I'm wanting to people please. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. And that can be pathological, or it can be just big-hearted human nature. It can be, there are lots of variations of that as well. Yeah.
True. Yeah, true. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. I think it's more to do with the core belief. I just do believe that there's, that there's right and wrong, and
Yep. Yeah, that's a big one. That's one we all have to look at, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, fear of getting it wrong. Fear of getting it wrong.
Or whatever way it turns up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I had a feeling you were going to say something, Phoebe.
Yeah, I wanted to just address what Scott brought up. And Scott, I just know those feelings of self-loathing so intimately. And also, I've spent my whole life having thoughts come up that scare me, that shame me, and I play those. I just play those. And yesterday, Dennis was talking about, the 5 thoughts that we're married to. Those were my thoughts, and one of the things that happened was I brought one of them up in a meeting with Pernille and Todd, and I just put it out there for the whole group. And just doing that freed me up, and I haven't had that particular nightmarish thought since. It just hasn't showed up on my radar. And I was going to say to you, no matter where you are right now, it may be that you just bringing this up within the group will lift some of that, the power of the threat of those thoughts. Like, those thoughts are going to destroy you, because if they ever get public, they'll destroy you. And you will be unlovable and unwanted. And I just want to tell you, I so admire you for bringing this up. And I just love it. Like, my heart is just so expansive and open as a result of you bringing this up. And no matter where you stay with those thoughts, in the back of your mind, just remember, I'm your friend. I'm proud to be your friend, and I love you. And I'll match your thought for thought.
Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you very much.
Is it a time zone thing, Casimir, or do you're 3.5 hours late? We're about to wind up and you've just turned up.
That one's on me. Just been a busy weekend. Figured I'd pop in,
Yeah.
see if anyone was still here. But if you're about to wind up, go
No,
ahead.
well, we can always do a few more minutes if you got something you want to express, think you talk about.
Just I guess fun latest realization that thoughts are you never have the same thought twice, in the sense that I realized if I'm thinking about something or something keeps coming back into my head, I'll think like, oh, I keep thinking about this thing. But then I realized the thing that I assume is the same is never actual, is never here. The only thing that's here are the thoughts about that thing, but each individual thought is completely different, or completely unique, I should say, each time it pops up. And it was just funny to suddenly realize that, it's not just visual appearances are constantly changing or sensations are constantly changing, but even totally conceptual thoughts. I always thought like, okay, I can think about my desk, and every time I think about my desk, it's still the same desk, but it isn't, because that idea desk never is real, only the thoughts about it, but each thought is different. It's in a different moment. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of broke some of the realness of the things that thoughts point to, which could include me, but actually includes everything.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a good one. I've been known to say a quote I got from the internet that 97% of our thoughts each day will be repetitions of ones we had the day before. But you are right in that they'll be, because they can't possibly be the same thought. They can only be similar in nature or whatever, but they're always, because a thought comes from nowhere, it's there for such a quick time that it can't even be measured, and it's gone again. Sometimes they repeat, but even the repetition, the next one that comes along is going to be slightly different. So yes, they are unique. I get that. Yeah, for sure.
And like, I can't find anything at all that is actually persists in time.
No.
That actually is unchanged. Even and that was that clicked on a slightly deeper level, maybe. I mean, I'm sure there's much deeper levels yet, but the fact that there's nothing that is constant, even from microsecond to microsecond.
Yeah. Well, this might be a good thing to wind up the meeting on. There's a mind boggle here that I just love, and that is that nothing is static. Everything is always changing. Yet for anything to change, there has to be a before and a now and a future. There has to be at least a before and a now for it to change. And there is only now. There is no before, except in memory, except as a thought. So how can it possibly be that nothing is static, yet everything is always changing, yet there's no time? Oh, now that's a mind boggle. I love those koans.
Yeah, it's if I really push myself on it, there's no way that I can actually know that everything didn't just pop into existence exactly like this, including all the memories that I am experiencing now about the past. I believe them, but I can't actually know that it didn't just all go poof right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, all right. I do have to go. I've got there's that so-called unreal life out there to get do things with. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.